So by request, I'm doing a follow-up video of the Narcissistic Parents video, and this one is going to be about the roles that narcissists assign their children, mostly the golden child and the black sheep, but then there's also one that most people don't talk about that I'm going to mention in this video. And before I start, I just wanted to thank everyone for the positive responses to my energy reading that I did, my first time actually doing tarot on film, on camera, and I appreciate the positive responses. Tarot is something I'm new to, but something I'm very passionate about, so I really appreciate you guys giving me positive feedback and letting me know that some of the messages that came through resonated with you. So if you want me to do daily energy readings, you can go and follow my Instagram, and that's where I will be doing them at. So let's get into the roles that children of narcissists are assigned. So narcissists assign their children certain roles for a specific purpose, okay? First of all, it's to create drama and chaos amongst the children, and narcissists enjoy that because they enjoy emotionally manipulating people, and they enjoy the fact that they have power or control over someone's emotions. It makes them feel like superior. It's like a source of supply to them. Another reason that narcissists assign roles to their children is to basically take the attention off of the fact that they are abusive and they know it. And that's the thing. Like I said in my last video, narcissistic parents are fully aware that they are abusive. They're aware that they're dysfunctional. Like, don't think, oh, it's a personality disorder, it's a mental disorder. They don't know. They are fully aware of what they're doing. So when they assign different roles to different children, it's like they always have somebody else to blame for their behavior. They care about appearances. They care about like what other people think. So if they can, like I said, assign the role of scapegoat to somebody, then, you know, their dysfunctional behavior can be overlooked. Like, oh, why did your child, you know, end up on drugs or in jail or something, you know? And they could just blame it on the fact that, oh, that person is a scapegoat. But like, look at my golden child though. That child came out perfect, so I must be a good parent. Look, like, it's all about appearances. It's all about appearances and making sure that they don't have, you know, they don't have to take responsibility for what they're doing, pretty much. So how do these roles get assigned? These roles get assigned for a couple different reasons. Like, it can vary. When a narcissist has a kid to one person, but then they end up breaking up with the person and dating someone else and then having kids, like, they'll start to treat their kids from their first marriage like the scapegoat because they don't want to be reminded of their failed first marriage. So like, their current marriage, the child they have will be like the golden child, but then the kid from their past marriage they just treat like trash, okay? That's one example. Another thing could be physical appearance, which is absolutely ridiculous. But let's say they think that one of their kids are cuter than the other. They can show off the cute kid more and get more attention from people, so that kid will be, you know, the golden child, and the other kid who they don't find as appealing or they can't brag about, that'll be the black sheep or the scapegoat, which is, like I said, absolutely ridiculous. But one of the main reasons that these specific roles are assigned to specific children is how the children behave, okay? So if the parent sees one of the children is already rebellious, and the children asks, and the child or the children, because there can be more than one, asks a lot of questions and kind of challenges the narcissist's authority, narcissists can't handle that at all. It causes them something called narcissistic injury. A narcissistic injury is like when a narcissist's persona, like their fake persona, like somebody sees right through it and reminds them of the internal wounding and the shame that they actually have on the inside. They can't handle it. So if they have a child who like calls them out on doing things that just, it's obviously wrong and abusive, they will automatically label that child the scapegoat or the black sheep, so that no one else will believe that child. And another thing about assigning the role of scapegoat is that, you know, if you were extremely sensitive as a child, narcissists can't stand that because it reminds them of their own inability to be in touch with their emotions. It sort of like wounds them to see like one of their children sensitive. It makes them feel like that's a weakness, and so therefore, like I said in my last video, narcissists see their children as extensions of them. So if they see their child is weak, it's like it causes them a narcissistic injury because they start to see the weakness within themselves. You see what I'm saying? It's really ridiculous. So they'll throw the title of scapegoat onto that child as well if you're like too sensitive. The golden child is usually the child that is a little more, I guess you could say, pliable, like more likely to go with the flow, like more likely to not challenge the narcissist. If they see that trait in one of their children, they're more likely to kind of attach themselves to that child and make that child the golden child, okay? Like I said, I'll get into more of this as we discuss each one separately. So, the golden child. The golden child is the child that the narcissist puts on a pedestal. It's the child that the narcissist praises, the child that can do no wrong. It's like everything great about the narcissist, or that they want people to think is great about them, they project onto their golden child, okay? So because they see themselves as perfect, can do no wrong, which narcissists really don't see themselves like that, okay? That's their false self, that's their false image. Deep down underneath it all, they are extremely broken, toxic, shameful people. So they have this false image of like the superiority, and they place that image onto the person that onto the child that they name the golden child, okay? The narcissistic parent will usually play the golden child against the black sheep, okay? So it's like killing two birds with one stone. They get to show off their golden child around town, like, look at, you know, how beautiful he is or she is, or look how much they've accomplished, I'm such a good parent. So they get that supply that way, but then also they get to make their black sheep feel like trash by just blatantly showing that they have a favorite. You know, it's really ridiculous and sick. But I do want to note that, like, the golden child, it seems like they're in a better position, but they're not. They're not. And I only say that because narcissists don't have the ability to love their children. So they don't really love the golden child. They love the characteristics that they're projecting onto the golden child. And the love is very conditional. So the minute the golden child steps out of line, they can easily become the scapegoat. And like sometimes that happens when the golden child kind of like starts to rebel a little bit, or like steps out of line a little bit. Like the narcissist has no problem taking that role from them and throwing the role of scapegoat on them like immediately. So a lot of golden children, or people who have been the golden child, don't end up doing that though, because they see how the scapegoat of the family is treated, and so they don't want that type of, you know, punishment. So a lot of them will do the exact opposite and be the exact opposite of how the scapegoat is, because subconsciously they don't want to be treated the way the scapegoat is treated. So if the scapegoat is really sensitive and cries a lot and, you know, very empathetic, subconsciously a golden child will see that and they will turn off those traits within themselves, because it's almost like they see that those type of traits are a weakness and they get punished for it, you know? And that's why sometimes the golden child can grow up to be a narcissist as well, because they kind of like just mimic their narcissistic parents in order to get their approval. But it's extremely, extremely conditional, like I said. A golden child never gets to form their own identity. Their narcissistic parent is basically living through them. Like, their narcissistic parent will suggest what career they should do, just based off of how good it looks to other people. Like, oh, you should be a doctor, you should be this. It is never for the best interest of the child. It's just, like I said, they just see them as extensions of themselves that they can show off. It may seem like, oh, a narcissist, don't they love their golden child? That means they are capable of love. No, they don't really love the golden child. And sometimes being a golden child can actually be worse, because it's harder to break away from the narcissist when you're the golden child, because they enmesh themselves with the golden child, okay? It's like the golden child has no identity at all outside of the narcissistic parent. And a lot of people who are the golden children, they end up not succeeding much in life, because one, narcissistic parents basically big them up a lot, like make them feel like they're superior or better than others, and then when they step out into the real world, they'll soon come to find, no, you have to work, you know, at certain things and skills. It's not just going to be handed to you, right? Like, they're out of touch with reality, which is not their fault, but the narcissist has this weird reality that they're living in, and they almost like, they project that onto their children. And when their children step out into the world, they come to find that their role in the house is so different from their role in the real world. So as a golden child, that can be very extremely confusing. It's very possible for the golden child to wake up and realize what's going on and actually, you know, form an alliance with the black sheep. I've seen it in many forms. I've seen it in my own life, actually, because my sister was the golden child growing up, and I was the black sheep, and we didn't get along at all, like at all. And then I think the turning point was when, you know, my sister started seeing that her own emotional needs weren't being met, and like she could come to me with her emotional needs, and I was there to like help her through her emotions, stuff like that. And that kind of like just tightened our bond. Like, there's a lot of misconceptions about that, like how the black sheep and the golden child, they'll always be at each other's throats and they'll always hate each other. Usually that can happen, honestly. That's what's most likely to happen, because they're being trained to do that from a young age. But I think like miracles do happen, and sometimes like they do form alliances. And it's crazy because, you know, the scapegoat is usually like, they're painted to be a bad person and a liar, And and it's funny because like when the golden child and the scapegoat link up, it's like it makes the whole narcissistic like dynamic of the family crumble, because it's like you spent all this time telling everybody that the scapegoat is a liar and the golden child is like this perfect child who can do no wrong. So when they form an alliance and the scapegoat, and the golden child can confirm the abuse that the scapegoat went through, then it's like, how can a narcissistic parent deny? Because you already told everybody that your golden child is like special and perfect and they would never lie. They have no reason to lie. So when they form that alliance with the black sheep, it's like, yeah, it's doomsday for a narcissist, because like what are you gonna lie about now? Like when there's more than one party who is aware and see through your mask. So yeah, just had to plug that in there. If you are the golden child, if you are the black sheep, there is hope to be to have a close connection with your siblings. So next is the role of scapegoat. Now the scapegoat is basically the trash bin of the family, which sounds horrible, but it's true. And me myself being a scapegoat, yes, I know it's very painful to come to that realization, but there is an upside to being the scapegoat, which I will touch on later. So as the scapegoat, basically a scapegoat is like the person who carries all the family trauma and the burdens on their back. Everything that's wrong with the family gets blamed on the scapegoat, okay? Every single thing. I saw this example online, which was just so crazy because it was so accurate, where it was like this narcissistic family or this narcissistic parent, and they have a scapegoat child. So they leave out to go shopping or something. When they come back, their house has been completely robbed. And instead of the narcissist being like, okay, well, these type of things happen, the narcissistic parent was just like, well, who turned the porch light off so that people knew that we weren't home? And then that gets put onto the black sheep. You see what I'm saying? Black sheep, scapegoat, I'm going to keep on probably interchanging these during the video, but they mean the same thing. But you see what I'm saying? Like, they get blamed for everything. And usually when the scapegoat is acting out and being rebellious, it's out of being abused and like needing help, and the narcissist just uses that to further smear the scapegoat's name, to further tell the family like, yeah, this is the problem child, this person's always doing this and that, I'm so stressed out, I don't know what to do with her, like I don't know what to do with him, I need to take him to therapy, like I'm just such a good parent, I don't deserve this. Like they play the victim, and the scapegoat is just really left looking like the problem child. And it's ridiculous, it's horrific, and it's isolating. And that's the thing that's so sick about narcissists, is that they like to isolate people so that you feel like you're all by yourself, to the point like where I can't even imagine, I haven't even looked up the statistics on this, but I can't even imagine the suicide rate when there's narcissistic abuse involved, because isolation is one of the main tactics they use on a scapegoat, like to make them feel like they have nobody in this world, like nobody loves them. And it's just horrific, and it's all because the scapegoat is just rebellious and is the one that's right there reminding the parent like, no, you're not right for what you're doing, and calling the parent's bluff. And not even that, because sometimes scapegoats, they aren't rebellious and outspoken. Sometimes they're just really sensitive, and narcissists see that as a weakness, and it disgusts them. You know what I'm saying? It's horrific. But if you are the scapegoat and you are constantly being, like, your name is being smeared and like you have people turning against you, don't worry, because the upside to being a scapegoat is that because the scapegoat is not enmeshed with the narcissist, it's easier to break free from the narcissist. So once you figure out what's going on, like that you're not the problem, that it's everyone else, that it's your family, then it's easier for you to escape and break free and actually heal and have a healthy relationship. The scapegoat has a better chance of healing and moving on to have a happy life than a narcissist or a golden child, you know, unless the golden child, like I said, like in the case of my sister, unless the golden child has like an awakening, and then obviously they're on the path to being healthy as well. But if it's like a golden child that never fully awakened to how abusive their parents are, or worse, if they turn into abusers themselves, it's like they have a very slim chance of actually living a normal and healthy life. So for the scapegoats, especially the ones who are rebellious, who call your parents out, good job, I commend you. And you have a very high chance of taking your life back and just becoming the person that you were put on this earth to be, which is somebody who is worthy of love, who's deserving of love, who shouldn't have to carry anyone else's burdens, you know? And it's like, as a scapegoat, when you separate yourself from the family, you just watch them self-destruct, because it's like, then who are they going to blame any of their problems on? And that's the thing, narcissists don't just assign roles to their own children. Like, if you have a narcissistic parent who's like always trying to be a savior and like always trying to have a bunch of downtrodden people around them, they have appointed certain roles to those people as well, like whether it be family members, friends, whether they're mentoring someone, quote unquote, they will still have a golden child and they'll still have a scapegoat. Like, they just can't help themselves. They think that the world revolves around them and that the world is their stage and that these people are just players, that they're just pawns, and they think they have the right. They think they have the right to do that. And there's one more role that, if you look it up, like, I barely see this mentioned, and it's the role of the lost child. The lost child is the child that just kind of just fell by the wayside. Like, they're not the scapegoat because the burden isn't put on them for everything. Like, they don't get in trouble. They're not necessarily rebellious at all. But then at the same time, they're not the golden child because they don't get any praise either. So this is a child that, like, spends a lot of time outdoors. Like, if you have a sibling who get up and leaves in the morning and doesn't come back till late at night and you never see them, yeah, that's probably the lost child. Like, if you have narcissistic parents, that child is the lost child. And the lost child is just, like I said, the child is just kind of floating around and they have no direction as well. They don't get their emotional needs met either, but they don't even attempt to get their emotional needs met. Because, like I said, in my family, my sister was the golden child, I was the scapegoat, and then my brother was the lost child. Like, he would be the one that was just gone all the time. Like, we never really saw him. But then it's like he transitioned into being the scapegoat along with me at one point. I don't know, it's weird. Like the roles really do switch. These roles are confusing because they switch back and forth because they're irrational and they're devilish, and they shouldn't even be put on children. Like, children should be brought into this world to be raised and loved and to be individuals, you know, with their own dreams, their own hopes. And it's sick because, like, when you're born into a family of narcissists, it's like you don't have your own identity. Like, from birth, they're already assigning you to, like, this lifetime of pain. I want to do another video on the spiritual aspect of this because there are spiritual theories that narcissists have, like, some type of psychic intuitive gifts where they can tell which child is going to be the most spiritually gifted, and they automatically start to abuse that child from birth to, like, stomp those psychic abilities or, like, those spiritual gifts out of them from an early age, as if it's like spiritual warfare almost. I'll do another complete separate video on this because the spirituality and, like, the theories of spirituality behind narcissism, like, they will blow your mind and they make so much sense. And I also wanted to mention a video, a channel that I came across last night, which disturbed me and horrified me. I'll link her channel down below, but it's a woman who had narcissistic parents who was a golden child, and she shares her experience of how she was the golden child and how her older brother was the scapegoat. Her and her brother reconnected years later because she started to see how horrific her parents were, and she became a scapegoat herself. She went from golden child to scapegoat, and so she reconnected with her brother, and she was saying that her brother's the only sane person in her family, the only person that can empathize, the only person that sees her as an individual, and she just had such high praise to sing for him, and it was just so, it warmed my heart to know that he finally was getting someone in his family to basically validate his pain and his experience, you know what I'm saying? And also, her as the golden child, it was just amazing for me to see that she broke free from that and that she was able to see what was going on and that she reached out to her brother, you know, to build that bond. And this is where it gets disturbing. As I watched her videos and went further and further on, there was a video about his death and how he ended up dying. And he ended up dying from, I believe she said, kidney failure or liver failure, because he was on hardcore drugs, because he never recovered from being the scapegoat. He never recovered from being the black sheep. Being the black sheep killed him. The pain, the emotional pain that comes with being the black sheep and being the family dumpster is too much for a lot of people to bear, especially when they don't have information about what's going on inside of them. And it literally does turn to a life or death situation, health complications, drug use, just trying to, like, numb that pain of feeling like I said, like a trash can. So when I saw that last night, I was so disturbed, because it's one thing to, like, sit on camera and to, like, talk about these things and be like, oh yeah, well, okay, here's the scapegoat, here's the, like, as if it's like a, you know, a science research paper. But then when you have, like, real humans with real experiences and, like, someone actually dying early because of the pain that their narcissistic parents put them through, and I'm sure the narcissistic parents in that situation, I'm sure they didn't care one way or another that their son died. And she said in the video, like, you know, she told him, like, you're the best member of our family. And just horrific. So if you are the scapegoat, And if you are the golden child as well, or the lost child, my heart goes out to you. And I will have a healing video coming on my healing process and how I've been, you know, working through this and my experience with these roles, you know, on a personal level. And also, if you are the scapegoat or the black sheep, you probably more than likely struggle with some type of codependency. So I do have a codependency healing channel, and I will link that down below. So yeah, comment down below if you can relate to any of these roles. Tell me your story and tell me how you were able to break free from it, if you ever did, or if you were able to reconcile and actually have a good relationship with your siblings. Make sure you subscribe if you have not already, and give this video a thumbs up if it was helpful, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.